In this video, I'm going to break down the numbers on what you need to do in order to hit $10,000 per month in your detailing business. And whether you want to hit 10,000 or 5,000 or 35,000, you'll use this exact same formula to budget, plan, and project your numbers. This is so crucial in growing your business because it's not just about saying, oh, look, we have $1,000 on the schedule for today. That's no indication of how your business is doing. And if you are looking to grow your business and you need to focus or you need help with your marketing, I do have a full-fledged in-depth marketing course on search engine optimization, SEO. This is the number one way we've grown our business over the last 10 years. You can click the link down below and check out the course. This is when someone goes to Google, they search for a detailer in your area, and your website comes up on the first page. You're not paying any ads. This is organic marketing. So if you want to check that out, you can click the link down below. And if you'd rather have me just do all the work for you, meaning we offer marketing services now, you can also click the link down below and book a call to see if we're a good fit for this service. But other than that, let's go in with this jam-packed episode of knowing your numbers. All right, so let's figure out the math in terms of what you need to do in order to hit $10,000 per month. Now, with what I'm about to show you, you can do this to any number, right? Whether you want to hit 2,000 a month, 10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, it's going to be the same math. And this is so critical to understand because, like I had a call today with a gentleman that he wanted to quit his job. And you can tell without going through like much detail in his business, you could tell that it wouldn't work out based off of the numbers he was giving me, the customers he serviced, his prices, to where he was very certain that he was going to leave his job to go full time with detailing. And then like, as I spoke to him and asked more questions, you could tell he was completely lost with the numbers. And again, same thing I've been saying over the last few weeks or months is that when you see someone claim that they're making 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 per month without getting the full context of their business, which again, like, you also don't have a right to, to know all the numbers, right? But take everything with a large grain of salt or sand, whatever the saying is, because you don't know the full context of what's going on in their business. If someone claims $20,000 per month and they have, 4 employees, they're not making any money, right? If there's, like you have no full context of the situation. So, and I'm really saying this, one, because if you're in business, obviously you need to understand your numbers, but then 2, on social media, it's very easy to get away with saying these numbers, right? If someone says, come with me to make, $1,000 today or whatever, you don't know how many people worked on it. You don't know total man hours. You don't know what their hourly rate goal is. You don't know, you have no context of anything, right? You don't know if it was actually 9 hours, but they said it's 7. You don't know if it took them 14 total man hours, but they claim it's 6. Like, you really have no idea, no context of the entire situation. So that's why it's important for you to understand what we have going on here. So let's start off super simple, right? And so let's say the goal, that's not good. Let's say the goal is $10,000 per month, okay? Let's say that's the goal you want to hit. And we'll do different scenarios. We'll first start off with the one that I see quite often of they want to grow the maintenance program. Okay, so let's say you wanted to make $10,000 per month doing the maintenance work, because the biggest problem I see when people want to plan out the math is, oh, well, if I wanted to make $10,000 per month and each detail is $200, then I only need to do 50 details per month. And if you divide that by 4, that's only 12 details per week. I can totally do that. The issue with that is you're missing one of the biggest components to that, and that's budgeting your hours, right? Because if you're not allocating the proper budgeted hours to your hourly rate, you'll never hit the goals, because one or the other is off. You're under budgeting the hours, meaning you're undercharging, or you're taking too long, which or you're pricing yourself too low that even if you are hitting budgeted hours, you're still not making as much money because you're just priced low. So super important to understand this. So let's say you wanted to do, the first thing we have to understand is, let's say it's a one-man band, right? So it's just you, okay? And let's say that I'm going to assume that we're going to work 40 hours a week, right? Yes, of course, you can go to 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I'm not going to go with that example because it depends on your situation. It depends if, just working 60 hours a week just out there in the field is not sustainable. There's times that you'll have to do that just naturally, but I'm not gonna go with the assumption that you're working 60 hours a week, because then if you have a team member with you, you're not gonna make them work 60 hours a week, and nor would they want to work 60 hours a week. So I'm gonna keep things as like a regular business, right? If you want to go out there and work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, you can do that. You can still apply the same math. But we're going to stick with a 40-hour work week. Okay. So there's 40 hours, let's say a one-man band, right? There's 40 hours in a week that you can work. Now, you don't work those 40 hours. Let's say you're mobile. Let's say you have good route density and you are at 80% efficiency, right? 80% efficiency means that of 10 hours of a day that you're clocked in, 80% of that is working on a car, right? Because we only make money, we only produce revenue when we're clocked in on a job. When we're driving in the morning, when you're setting up the van, when you get back and you're bringing things down, when you're washing pads, we make no money, right? So we only make money, we only produce revenue when we're working and clocked in on the customer's vehicle. So of 80% efficiency, all you're gonna do is take 40 hours times 0.80, right? 80%. And that gives us so we have a 40-hour work week, and that gives us 32 hours of budgeted hours that we're gonna work, right? So that's an 80% efficiency, right? Now again, if it's worse and you're at, call it even 75, all you'll do is do 40 hours times 0.75, and that puts you at 30 budgeted hours. Okay, so this is why it's so important to clock in and out every job, even if you if it's just by yourself, because you need to understand these numbers. Because if you are going to grow and you're going to hire someone, having this data to look at to get a good baseline understanding of like what you should be producing with two people is so important. And again, so all you'll do is just, if you want to see what's your efficiency, 40 times 65, right? Which would be pretty bad. That would put you at 26 budgeted hours. So again, like if you're working a 40-hour work week and you're only actually clocked in on a customer's vehicle 26 hours out of the week, that's very bad, because almost half your day, half your week is gone to like window time and driving. So that would not be ideal. So let's stick with this example here, which is 40 hours in a week at 80% efficiency. Now we have to multiply that by our hourly rate goal. Now this will differ person to person because it's totally dependent on your situation. If you're strictly only working weekends because you have a full-time job, you're working out of your already paid off truck that you have all your equipment in the back, your expenses and what you need to hit in order to reach your goals will be different than someone that has two vans with two employees that, things of that nature. So it's going to change person to person. I can't give you like an exact number. It will change. But let's say for this situation, we are going to go for, let's do two examples. We are going to go for both 60 and 80, just to give you two examples, okay? So now what we're going to do is, and let me kind of clean this up right here. Hopefully I'm recording this properly. So now what we're going to do is basically very simple, is multiply 32 times 60, okay? So in 1 week, you should be able to produce $1,920. Now, the good thing about this is if we're doing the exact same work, but we're able to increase our hourly rate goal, and let me move this a little bit. This same job where it took us, let me resize it real quick. This is the problem of doing things live. There you go. So now let's say that for $80 an hour, we are now making $2,560 per week, right? If we go from 60 to 80. Again, this is all going to change based on what you're doing. Of course, it's always better to go for a higher hourly rate, right? Like that's always a goal, but based on where you are with your business, the services that you offer, your efficiency, your area, like this will dictate what you're doing, right? And it's always going to be on a range. So if you're doing engine details and interior details, you'll be on the lower end of that scale just because it's not that difficult to do. Anyone can do it. Whereas if you're doing correction coatings or you go into film, window tint, PPF, or even vinyl wrap, well, then you can get closer to 80, 90, 100, 120, 140, $140 an hour for those jobs. And if you want a real, like, you want to know why there's not a bunch of like detail franchises out there and why, there's not private equity buying up and rolling up detail shops is because an HVAC technician, their hourly rate can go up to like $195 an hour. So one employee at 80% efficiency, working 32 hours, one employee in 1 week will make $6,240. That's why you don't see so much roll-ups or expansions with detail shops, because we can't get close to electrical, plumbing, HVAC. Like those have such a high hourly rate, that's why they're able, one employee at a, HVAC home service type business can produce $500,000 in revenue with just one employee, right? Like that is the difference between the industries. Just to put that into context. So anyway, so with if you're working 32 budgeted hours per week, at $60 an hour, you will make 1,920. Or if you're doing $80 an hour, that's 2,560. So obviously at this point, let me just kind of delete that real quick. So now if you take those same numbers and then you multiply it by 4, obviously, you're going to take 1920 times 4, and that gives us one person. Oh, you can't really see that. Let me do that again. 7,680. So one person working 32 hours per week will give us $1,920 per week in revenue. Multiply that by 4, and that gives us $7,680 in revenue that one employee or yourself can generate. Now, again, you take those same numbers, 32 hours, you multiply that by 80 hours, $80 per hour, and now you are, and then you multiply that by 4, I'm sorry, and now you are at $10,240, right? So in one example, working the same amount of hours of 32 hours in 1 week, we hit 7,680. If your goal is to make $10,000 per month, then working the same amount of hours, we can reach $10,000 by being at $80 per hour. Now, again, it's a lot easier said than done, because, how do you, so we'll go to the next example now, okay? Because the next issue here is, how do you hit that higher hourly rate? Because theoretically, if, let's say, like, for instance, because your marketing, your customer service, your experience, the services that you offer, let's say you can't reach that $80 per hour mark. Like, let's just say you just can't do it. Well, then the only other option is to work more hours, right? Which, again, if we're working at, if we want to hit $10,000 per month, and we're at the $60 an hour rate, all we would do is divide $10,000 divided by 60, because that's our hourly rate goal, and that gives us 167 budgeted hours that we have to complete for the month, right? So then you're going to divide that by 4, and that gives us 41 budgeted hours to work. That if you were doing this by yourself, you would have to work 42 hours, right? Because that's 41 hours and 45 minutes. Now you might say, oh, I can for sure do that. And again, that's assuming an 80% efficiency, right? So that means, so 41 hours and 45 minutes is what you need to work per week by yourself at the hourly rate goal of $60 per hour in order to hit $10,000 per month. Now, again, that is assuming that you're at 80% efficiency, because you literally won't work on a car every single hour of the week, right? And again, if you're going to have that mindset of like, oh, I could do it myself, go for it. But the key word I think I'm going to stick with this whole year is it sustainable though? We can all work like a dog for a week and be from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and just working, through in and throughout the whole day. How long does that last? Not seeing your family, not being with friends, not having a day off, working Monday through Saturday. Like how long can you keep that up, right? And you might say, oh, but the money's good. Yeah, but like, is this what your business is? And again, like if you just want to stay a solo operator, that's totally fine. Like really, like if that's all you want to do, that's absolutely fine. But it's really like, well, is that sustainable? Is that something that you can do long term? Like you can do it for a week, maybe a month. Can you do that for the whole year? Can you actually keep that momentum up? So that's what you have to look at, right? So with one employee, you're able to generate $7,680 at $60 an hour, or $10,240 if you're able to hit $80 an hour. Now, again, mess with these numbers however you want. Go to 65, try 70, try 75, try 80. You could plug in any numbers that you want here, because there's no set rule. Like, if you're operating at let's say you work in a very dense area and like you just have all these cars packed in right there. Maybe you work at like it'd be kind of hard, but 90% efficiency, right? You can plug all these numbers in yourself to see what's going to work out. Now, again, this is why it's so important to understand, because, if you have, let's say that someone has, you might say, oh, I want to get another mobile van so I can have more, so we can create more, we can do more cars, right? So right now, let's say you have one van, right? Van one. And with you in it yourself, right? Again, one person, this one van with one person, right? Let's say van one with one man, you can create $7,680 in revenue, right? And you might say, oh, I want to add another van. So then you're going to add another van two, with yet again one man band. So now you have two vans out there, right? And each one, assuming you're packing it out to capacity, right? You're actually hitting those 32 budgeted hours per week. These two vans will give you let me just multiply 7,680 times 2. That gives us $15,360, right? Now, and this is going to be applicable for most people, is that instead of increasing, call it your what's it called, your asset utilization, meaning having another van, which means if you have another van, you have to outfit it, you have to get a tank, a pressure washer, you have to get insurance, you have to get a loan on it, you have to, instead of doing all that, right, it makes a lot more sense to just add a 2-man crew to the one van, let go of this van, or don't get the one van, because now, per the math, with 2 people on that crew, you're supposed to be able to hit, you can hit that 15,000 in just one van with a 2-man crew, right? And we are operating, with the $60 per hour. Yeah. So one van with 2 people should theoretically hit $15,360. That should be the actual goal right there. Now, you might be saying, so now if we look at a 2-man crew, right? I'll just take those exact same numbers. We'll keep it very simple because I don't want to redo all that math. If we know one van with 2 people can hit $15,360 per month, right? That means if we get a second van with a 2-man crew, all we're going to do is 15,000 times 360. Oh, what? 15,000 times 360. Oh, times 2. With 2 vans, we should be at roughly $30,720 per month with 2 vans and 2 people per van. Because instead of splitting up and saying, oh, one van per person, you're just increasing your cost without really matching your revenue, your labor revenue, right? Again, that's why, like, when you see like someone say, hey, we're making this much, or hey, we're adding another van, there's no context behind it, right? You could have 5 vans with a 1-man crew or even a 2-man crew in each one, and you could still make less than someone that has a 3-man or a 2-van crew, a 2-van setup with 2-man per van, because their numbers are just a lot better, right? Like that this is the reality of like what you have to understand in terms of how hitting it, like how it all works. So let's kind of redo that again. So if you were thinking about this in terms of maintenance, right? And we wanted to hit $10,000 per month, right? And with maintenance, if you want to build up your maintenance schedule, you can think about it a lot like lawn care, right? You get them on a recurring basis, maybe bi-weekly. I doubt weekly, but let's say, bi-weekly or monthly, right? Maybe every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. And the key with maintenance is that it's efficient, because since it's a maintenance, well, they're not going to pay $500 for a maintenance because it's a maintenance, right? So in order to hit your goals with maintenance, you have to be, 1, efficient, and then 2, realistically, you have to have very good route density. Because if you're driving 30 minutes this way, 20 minutes that way, 5 minutes this way, 30 minutes that way, you're spending too much time driving and not enough time on the cars. Because the goal is to be efficient to where like you can just, get in, get out, go to the next one. That's what maintenance is. Same thing with lawn care. Like, if they're charging $80 for a cut per week or bi-weekly, whatever the case may be, they're in and out in 40 minutes. Like there's no, that's how straightforward it is. In and out 40 minutes. In and out 34 minutes. In and out 43 minutes. So for instance, let's say that our hourly rate goal that we want to go for is, let me just do it on the other side. Our hourly rate goal is, let's say, I'll use a different number, $70 per hour. All right, that's our hourly rate goal. So to just get a look at how many hours of work we need on the schedule, just again, we're keeping it very simple because this is very simple, although it's very important. We're going to divide $10,000, right? Divided by $70 because that's our hourly rate. So on the schedule, we need 143 budgeted hours of work. That's this number, 143 hours, is what will get us to $10,000 per month in maintenance clients alone. Okay. So just to keep things simple, again, this is why you have to track these hours and you have to track everything, because if you don't track and you're just guessing, it's an easy way to bleed money without you even knowing, because you don't know where the holes are at. You're just assuming, oh yeah, it takes us about 40 minutes. Realistically, it takes you an hour. So now you're 20 minutes. There's two of you, that's 40 minutes over budget each time. And if you're trying to do, 143 hours of budgeted work, and each hour you're going over the budget by 20 minutes, or 40 minutes in total, you won't know that you're bleeding money. So in total, to reach your $10,000 per month in maintenance work, you need 143 budgeted hours. So again, keeping things very simple, let's say on average, let's say it takes just keep it simple, an hour and a half, right? So let's say the average maintenance takes 1.5 hours, okay? So now we'll divide 143 divided by 1.5. And that will give us basically 95 cars to do, right? So now if you simply, so if your hourly rate goal is $70, multiply 70 times 1.5, and each car, theoretically, right? And again, like, I'm keeping things simple because obviously some cars are going to be more than others. I'm just trying to keep things very simple here. Each car would be $105 per detail, right? So now if you multiply 105 and you multiply that by 95, that puts us right under 9,975. But we'll just go with it. Matter of fact, let's go to 106. No, let's keep 105. Keep it simple. That's more like an S. So it's 105 car. I'm sorry, for the 95 cars that you'll service per month, each car on average should be $105, right? And again, you can change these numbers by, instead of 70, you're going for $80 per hour in per man hour, right? So that's the goal. Now, if you're doing this, so now we'll take this the 1.5, right? If you're doing this by yourself on a one-man crew, right? You have 1.5 hours. You have 1.5 budgeted hours to complete that. So again, it's gonna differ detailer business. Like, each person will have a different look at what this is. So don't stick to the specifics of what I'm saying. Understand the format of what I'm trying to get at here. So in 1.5 hours, is that enough time for you to do a maintenance detail? By the time, so if you get there at 9, let's say roughly you're out the door, meaning you're going to the next car by 10:30 a.m. Right? Now, if you're doing this with a 2-man crew, right? That now drops to 0.75, which obviously, because it's a decimal form of the time, so you just take 0.75 times 60, and that gives you 45 minutes. So if you're working with 2 people, right? Because when you're charging when you have 2 people working, it's $70 per man per hour, not in total, right? So if you were working 70 hours by yourself, you don't make $70 an hour when there's 2 people. You would now effectively make $35 an hour per man per person, right? So when you're working in the field with someone, with a 2-man crew, you have to say, can you finish that job in 45 minutes? Again, I don't know. It just depends on what you're doing. If you say, no, that's not enough time, well, then now we know you're underquoting your jobs. And you say, no, it should be closer to 2 hours. Okay, then. You have to adjust the numbers to make sure either, one, you increase your budgeted hours per job, which means you're going to end up charging more to the customer. So instead of 105, it might be 120 or something. Or you just maybe you're just inefficient. Maybe you 100% can finish it under an hour and a half or under 45 minutes. But because you don't have a pressure washer reel, so you have to untangle the hose every time, and you have a gravity fed pressure washer, so it takes a bit more for the water to get going and primed and to use the pressure washer. Or maybe you don't have a generator, so you have to take down the generator, the pressure washer, hook it up to the customer's plug, and then you get to work, right? So it could also be your efficiency as well. Which again, every business, every detailer is going to be completely different in what they need in order to hit their goals. But this is the number right here, right? It's not saying, oh, well, if I only have to do, if I want to make $10,000 per month, and each detail was 150 detail, every detail is $150, and that's 67 details, and you divide that by 4, that's 16 details I have to make. That's not the right planning, because you're foregoing the biggest part of this all, right? So that's the easy way. Like, that is an example of how you reach your budgeted goals. Now again, if you wanted to like go to the extreme, right? Well, not extreme, but let's say your budgeted hour, your hourly rate goal is $120, right? Correction and coatings or anything film related, right? That's your hourly rate goal. So now if we divide $10,000 divided by 120, that is 83 budgeted hours that we have to schedule, right? So if we were at $70 an hour, that's 143 hours of work that we have on the schedule. To hit the same number of $10,000 per month, but we're operating at $120 an hour, that's only 83 hours for the month that we have to work. So now if you take 83 and divide that by 4, that's now roughly, let's say, that's roughly 21 hours per week that we have to work. Now, again, that's so much easier said than done because, well, how do you get, can you do an average interior detail that takes you 3 hours? But if you want to charge $120 per hour, can you charge a very average interior cleaning? Can you charge $360, right? If you wanted to do an engine bay detail that takes you, like, you get the point. Like, it's easy to say, oh, well, yeah, I'll go for $120 an hour each time. But that's the whole point of the business. Is your marketing set? Is your branding right? Do you have a right customer experience process? Your sales process? This is what determines the business, right? It's not just saying, oh, yeah, well, if that's the case, I'll go for $150 per hour. Well, of course, the goal is always to get as high as you want, but obviously there's going to be caps, whether it be labor, whether it be skill, whether it be your market, whether it be your marketing, whether it be your customers. You have to find that fine line between what's the highest that we can do based on all the other factors that we have to account for in our area, right? Because again, that's why lawyers are such a thing, because they go to school and they have to, very special knowledge, and they have to pass the bar exam, to where, like, our lawyer that we hire for business law, he charges $400 an hour, right? Like, so if he wanted to make, let's say that if he wanted to make $10,000 a month, which he does, and his hourly rate is $400 per hour, which it is, he literally has to work 25 budgeted hours to hit $10,000 per month. 25 hours, right? So this is how the numbers play out. This is why, like, law firms, this is how things change, right? Again, going with the HVAC, with the plumbing. Did I make the example here? Where they're at like 195 for service business. I don't have it here, but yeah. So this is the difference. This is how you plan. Right. So now if you're asking, oh, like, is it time for me to hire an employee? Well, it depends, right? If you're not producing, if you're making $7,680 by yourself, you might say, okay, well, I'm at full capacity and I want to keep on growing. So at that point, because you're at full capacity, because you're at, as far as like, yeah, I don't want to work 60 hours a week by myself. I want to keep a very, healthy schedule. At that point, okay, yeah, it's time to grow, to hire an employee. But that means now that you have to make sure you're hitting all your hours. You can't make the same amount of $7,680 when you have 2 people, because you just doubled your labor capacity without doubling your revenue. You see what I'm saying? So like on the other one with the vans, where's the van one at? With the vans is now when to purchase another van. Oh, now you know when to purchase another van. You don't just purchase a van because, oh, we're so booked out and, man, we have so many details on the schedule. Like, no, if you don't get another van until you have a 2-man crew making $15,360 per month with that one van. And once you go out and get the other van, where's my example at? Once you go out and get the other van, you know that should be. Did I erase it? Not that one. You know that should be what did I say? So that's like a 30,000, call it, let's say. So now you know, like you know the exact numbers of what you should be making if you want to hire someone, how many hours they need to work, if you need to get another van. Right now, you know the exact numbers. And this is what really changes your bid. Like this is what determines everything. So hopefully that helped you out. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I'm saying like just go through the video again and just do the same formula and figure out what works for you. Whether it's 10,000, 8,000, 4,000, 25,000, 55,000, 100,000, it's all the same math. It's all the same formula. I mean, granted, it gets depending on what you're doing, you have to do a bit more once you're, going higher and higher. But nonetheless, like it's all basically the same formula. You do the exact same math to understand where you are and where you want to be and how to project your numbers. So anyways, hopefully you learned something. I'll talk to you on the next one.